So let's begin by bowing in. Hello and welcome everybody. Let's see if we can get this right. Sorry, I've just got to get the recording correct.
It said it was recording, John.
I know, it's just that it's not showing the speaker, which is me at the moment. I'm not sure how to do that. There we go. Okay, so welcome everyone. We're working our way through Shambhala, the Sacred Path of the Warrior by Chogyam Trungpa. And tonight we're up to chapter 17, Natural Hierarchy. We have some notable absences this evening. Michael's brother is in town, so he's not able to attend. And Barry is off sailing. So it's just us chickens. This chapter is entitled Natural Hierarchy. And we've been discussing the whole idea of Great Eastern Sun, which is really about the beauty and value of this world when seen truly. That is, beyond the myths and mistakes of our thoughts, which contain the errors of I and other, and everything that inheres between I and other, passion, aggression, ignorance, and all the rest. And when seen truly, this world is the Great Eastern Sun, continually arising fresh, new every minute, every instant, full of beauty, freshness, meaning, power. As we begin to tread this path, we come more and more in contact, or more and more aware of this Great Eastern Sun, which is the development of the mentality of the warrior. Warrior not in the sense of aggression, but in the sense of one who is brave. Brave how? Brave enough to let go of the whole game of I and other, the reference points of that, and to basically immerse oneself, if you can even talk of oneself, in this space, here and now, in which arise and pass away all the phenomenal world, instantaneously, continuously, ever-changing, vivid, beautiful, and without reference points. This continual presentation is called the realm of magic, or in another word for it is drala, which signifies the beauty, vividness, and magical quality of the phenomenal world as it arises in this space, here and now. And this is what we have been talking about so far. Magic, nowness. Nowness is the only thing that really ever is, if you can even call it is or being. It's just this. All the rest of it is dream. Dreams of the past, dreams of the future, dreams of meaning, dreams of significance. And so our act of meditation, our practice of meditation, is to constantly come back to this, that, call it what you like. This nowness that is arising magically, beautifully, vividly, with power in the present moment. These teachings, the Shambhala teachings, tell us that as everything arises, it does so with a natural hierarchy, it's called, a natural order of things. We have already discussed one version of that order, the one that was inherited from China. The Confucian notions of heaven, earth, and man. Heaven, in this instance of the Chinese order, is the idea of natural law, you might say, the order of things, the way in which everything works together in harmony. Earth is the groundedness of our existence, the richness, the fruition quality, the earthiness of our existence. And man is the intermediary between these two, between the laws of heaven and the practicalities and factness of earth. And so there's heaven, earth, and man. It's man's job to establish the order on earth according to the laws and principles of heaven, which are the laws of righteousness and order and love and compassion and all of that. And even more than just man's job, it's the emperor's job in China. This is Chinese thought, which you see, China had such a profound impact on Tibet. And Tibet absorbed a lot of Confucian notions. And they're there in Buddhism, especially in the very first Tantra that the Buddha ever taught, the Wheel of Time Tantra, the Kala Chakra Tantra. It's full of Chinese lore, Confucian lore, even down to the hexagrams of the I Ching, the Book of Changes, are all there in that particular Tantra. And so it's the emperor's job to understand what the laws of heaven are. And in fact, they were codified and written down in one of the 12 Chinese classics. The I Ching, Book of Changes, is one of those classics, but the Li Jing is the book of rituals. And it was the emperor's job to observe these rituals because their function was to join heaven and earth, was to help earth live according to the dictates of heaven, so it would be in harmony with it. And what Confucianism taught was that when this is done, when the emperor observes the rituals and laws of the Book of Li and orders human society according to them, then there is peace and prosperity in the land. And when the emperor ignores these laws, contravenes them, then chaos ensues. And over the course of the centuries, from the first century prior to 2000 BC up until the last dynasty, which dissolved in 1911, that was the Manchu dynasty, there were periods of peace and prosperity and periods of chaos in China that came and went, and many different dynasties rose and fell. The last being the Qing dynasty, which was run by the barbarian people, the Manchus, who invaded China in 1644. And the end of that dynasty was marked, you might say. In 1911, it ended, but it was overthrown by the revolutionary Sun Yat-sen, who established the Republic of China. But prior to that, in the 1800s, China went through terrible chaos. The emperors had lost the mandate of heaven. They weren't governing according to the Li Jing. And there was the Taiping Rebellion in the 1850s, which lasted for almost 15 years, in which supposedly 20 million people lost their lives. There was tremendous famine. The Yellow River Huanghe changed its course by a matter of 600 miles from the north to the south of the Shandong Peninsula, flooding the entire breadbasket of China and causing tremendous starvation and hunger and disease. And really, China went through a terrible period of chaos, culminating in 1949, when the Chinese communists consolidated control and established relative peace in China. This is one version of how life is ordered, that one has to observe the natural orders of things, the laws of nature and of heaven, and govern this world according to them. And these laws have to do with kindness and generosity and all kinds of legality and all kinds of things that order society. But there's another set, and this is what we're talking about tonight, another set of criteria. And this is the Shambhala world. Shambhala is a mythic, maybe, kingdom. Nobody knows for sure. Supposedly the Buddha, towards the end of his life, visited King Indrabhuti in southern India. And the king said to the Buddha, "I'm a king. I'm not going to be a monk. My courtiers and are not going to be monks and nuns. Can you give us teachings suitable for lay people?" And so the Buddha gave them the Kalachakra Tantra, as I mentioned. And they practiced this and got enlightened. And that whole society became what is now called Shambhala. And supposedly, perhaps, it rose off the earth and inhabits a celestial realm, although there are different versions of what that means. And in fact, if you want to listen to Ian Baker's account of the Bayul is the sacred land, the secret land, which is another version of Shambhala. And it lives somewhere on earth, perhaps. And the journey to the Bayul is both geographic and spiritual. You have to find one of the 4 entrances, which are difficult to find. So whether Shambhala actually exists as a land or not, who knows? But definitely the principles of Shambhala are here for us today. And this world is ordered by a similar but different set of principles called Hla, Nyen, and Lu. This is the subject of this week's chapter in Shambhala, the Sacred Path of the Warrior, Natural Hierarchy. Hla literally means gods. They inhabit high places. They're not necessarily up in the sky, but they're on mountaintops for sure. The Nyen are us, the humans who walk the earth. And Lu are serpent deities who live in watery places, streams, rivers, lakes, and in the ocean. A famous example of the Lu also represents, while man represents sort of the earthiness, the practicality, Hla represents divine principle, heights, the beauty of enlightenment itself, although the gods aren't enlightened, but they represent that possibility. Lu, the serpent deities, represent richness, gold, as figuratively speaking. And they live in watery places and make that sort of a liquid gold. A famous example of the effect of the Lu. In the 1st to 2nd century AD, a great Indian pundit, Nagarjuna, wanted to acquire the Prajnaparamita teachings, which the Buddha had given during his lifetime. Remember, the Buddha during his lifetime taught the Heart Sutra and gave many other Prajnaparamita teachings. He taught the Heart Sutra on Vulture Peak Mountain to the north of Rajagriha. Rajagriha is a city that you can go to today. In fact, you can go to the Vulture Peak Mountain and climb it. There's a road that goes up, lined with people begging, and you get to the top and there's a platform, and you can sit up there, and that's where the Buddha taught the Prajnaparamita teachings that are described in the Prajnaparamita Sutra, which we have chanted often. And the story goes that when the Buddha died, he knew that the people of his time weren't quite ready for these teachings. And so he gave them to the Lu. The Lu is the Tibetan. The word in Sanskrit is Naga. Naga means the same thing as Lu. It's these serpent deities who live in watery places. And the ultimate Naga Lu beings live in the ocean, in the depths. And so the story goes that the Buddha gave the Prajnaparamita to the Nagas, the Lu, who live in the ocean. And Nagarjuna knew this, and he wanted to retrieve them. He felt that the time was right. And so with his magical powers, there are many different versions of Nagarjuna and who he was. One version has him living an ordinary life, for about, 70, 80 years, however long he lived. Another version has him living 900 years. In this version, he traveled magically down into the ocean to the realm of the Nagas, the Lu. And he knew that they wouldn't give up these teachings that had been entrusted to them by the Buddha if he simply asked. So what he did was he made them all, through his magical powers, he made all these Nagas sick. And then he showed up and he offered to cure them in return for the Prajnaparamita teachings. They agreed, he did, and they gave him the Prajnaparamita teachings, which he brought back to this earthly plane. And that's why we have them. And he did this supposedly around the 1st to 2nd century AD. Although Western scholars date the earliest Prajnaparamita teachings to about the 2nd century, 3rd to 2nd century BC. And there are many different versions of the Prajnaparamita teachings in different lengths. They all are saying primarily the same thing. But there's the Prajnaparamita even in one letter, the letter A, or the Prajnaparamita teaching in one page, that's the Heart Sutra. And then it goes from there to the Prajnaparamita teachings in 8,000 verses, in 25,000 verses, and there is a Prajnaparamita in 100,000 verses, which you can buy. So this is another example of the Lu and their place. They live in watery places and they keep treasures, rich. The Hla represent divinity. Sometimes they're very dumb, the Hla, the gods. Lots of stories about the gods looking down and seeing the Buddha teaching. It's basically saying, gee, I don't understand what he's saying, but I think I'll just rain some flowers down on him because I know it's good what he's doing. They're just really dumb. And there are lots of stories about gods inhabiting the high places, the mountain passes. And in fact, there's a movie, and I can't remember the name of it, with Sean Connery, maybe Michael Caine's in it, and they play a couple of soldiers in India in the 19th century.
The Man Who Would Be King. John.
That's it. Thank you. That's it. And they go to Tibet, and they make this journey over a pass. And as they go over the pass, the top of the pass, they yell out with their Tibetan bearers who are helping them, make this journey. They yell out a chant that Trungpa Rinpoche taught us. It goes, Kiki, so, Ashe, Hla, Gel Lo, Tak Seng, Kyung Druk, Yarke. Now, Sean Connery doesn't chant that whole thing. He just says, Kiki, so, Hla, Gel Lo. And what that means is, because he's not a full Shambhalian. He doesn't know the whole chant, but it's pretty close. And what he said, what it means is kiki so so is like hurrah, whoopee. That's what kiki so so. It's a war cry. And hla gyal lo means victory to the gods. And that's what you say as you cross a pass in the mountains. You go over a high mountain pass because you want to let the gods know that you respect them and you're wishing them good things. Victory to the gods. The rest of it, kiki so so, ashe, refers to a symbol which represents primordial awareness. And we'll get to that at some point. You can see it behind Barry's head in the mornings. He has an ashe hanging on his wall, painted. And there is perhaps a practice that we could do of actually creating ashes. It's a practice, it's called raising lunta, and we're going to come to that in this talk too. And then hla gyal lo, victory to the gods. And then the full chant goes tak seng kum druk dyarke, which means tiger, lion, Garuda, dragon. And these are the four dignities, they're called, of Shambhala. Tiger represents meek, lion is perky, the dragon is fearless. Tiger, wait a second. Somebody who remembers this. Tiger, lion, Garuda. Garuda is fearlessness, and the dragon is inscrutability, meaning just, doesn't show anything, just totally present, inscrutable. So I'm telling you all this because the idea here is that the world is ordered according to these three principles of Hla, Nyen, and Lu. And they're a way of invoking the power of Drala, the magic, when we observe them. What does it mean to observe them? Psychologically, Hla represents the first wakefulness. Waking up. Ha, like that. Hla, you're here, you're present. Your mind is not clinging to anything. We experience, he writes, of tremendous freshness and freedom from the pollution of I and other, neurosis, samsara. Hla is what reflects the great eastern sun for the first time in your being. Sorry. Sorry about that. Gotta turn off my phone. Here we go. And he says it's also the sense of shining out, projecting tremendous goodness. This is Hla. In the body, Hla is the head, especially the eyes and forehead. So it represents physical upliftedness, projecting out as well. This is where we take a good posture, is to take the posture that lifts up our Hla. Good straight back, head up. Nyen, which means friend, is the shoulders of the mountains, and it's your shoulders. And in military uniform, it's epaulets, and it's the chest and torso of the body. And psychologically, it's solidity, feeling grounded in the earth. So it's connected with great bravery and the gallantry of human beings. An enlightened version of friendship, being courageous and helpful to others. And finally, Lu, the water beings, the snakes, the nagas in Sanskrit. Hla in Sanskrit is Devi. Nyen, I forget what it is in Sanskrit, it's a human being. Lu in Sanskrit is Naga. It's the realm of the oceans and the rivers and the great lakes, the realm of water and wetness, and it has the quality of a liquid jewel, so connected here with richness. Psychologically, the experience of Lu is like jumping into a great gold lake. It's also freshness, like sunlight reflected in a deep pool of water, showing the liquid jewel-like quality of water. See, this is really conjuring the state of Great Eastern Sun, of basic goodness, the beauty of the world as it arises in this present moment, in these three qualities or areas. In your body, Lu is your legs and feet, everything below your waist. Traditionally, the Lu guard treasures, riches, at the Lu, the snakes, the nagas. In seasons, winter is Hla, the loftiest season, cold, crisp, in which you feel as though you were upstairs above the clouds, flying in the sky, he says. Spring is coming down from heaven and beginning to contact earth, the transition from Hla to Nyen. And summer is fully developed Nyen, when things are in full bloom, working, everything. You pick up a clod of earth and it's full of insects and worms. It's just going full blast. That's Nyen. And autumn is related with Lu, the harvest, fruition taking place, the final development. And these interact with each other, Hla, Nyen, and Lu. A constant process. And he says, like snow melting on a mountain. First, the sun, Hla, melts and warms the peaks and snows. And then water begins to run down and form streams. That's Nyen. And finally, the rivers empty into the ocean, which is Lu, the fruition. In human interactions and behavior, he says money is Hla. The bank deposit is Nyen. And taking money out to buy things or pay bills is Lu. Having a drink of water, you pour the water into the glass, that's Hla. You pick up the glass in your hand, that's Nyen, and you drink it as Lu. They play a part of every situation in life. Clothing, hats are Hla. Shoes are Lu. Trousers and dresses and shirts are Nyen. And if you mix up these principles, then you instinctively know that something is wrong. So if you put your shoes on your head, you're putting Lu in the place of Hla. That's the expression. If you put your shoes in your shirt, you're putting Lu in the place of Nyen. If you put your feet on a table, you're putting Lu in the place of Nyen. If you put your feet up on the table. Khrushchev, he gives the example, pounding his podium, is famous with his shoe, is using Lu in the place of Nyen. When we have these things in their proper places, Hla, Nyen, and Lu, then the world is ordered beautifully. Everything is in its place. And we can see this. When we see this, when we tune into it, it brings us into this world of clarity, of beauty, of richness. He says, observing these orders is what makes us civilized, as quotes. By following the order of Hla, Nyen, and Lu in your life, you can be harmonized with the order of the phenomenal world. And this is all a part of coming present, into this present moment now, and seeing, tuning into Drala, the magic and beauty of this world, in which these principles of Hla, Nyen, and Lu order the world beautifully. This is the whole order of cosmic principles. And if we violate it, this is getting almost back to the Confucian idea, crops wouldn't grow, animals wouldn't reproduce, and we would have devastating droughts and floods, wars happen. And I wonder if this is what's happening today in our society. That's what occurred to me as I read that. The pandemic. Some people are starving for lack of food, right in our country, in the United States. We've talked about maybe doing something together, and George and I have been talking about possibly helping with the problem of hunger. There are different organizations that we could contribute to with our time, money, intelligence, participation. He says Hua, Yin, and Lu is more like having good manners, but it can go so far as violating the sacredness of life, turning the world upside down. You lose your trust in the phenomenal world. And I think of the great cataclysms, World War II, the Nazis, Hiroshima and Nagasaki, the ozone layer, enormous loss of biodiversity in this planet, species just disappearing off the face of the earth. And we begin to lose our trust in the phenomenal world and become an untrustworthy person ourselves, thinking that pursuing your own self-interest is the road to success. He says this amounts to throwing yourself into the gutter of the world. So respecting Hua, Yin, and Lu within this world of this sacred world, the world of magic, the world of Drala, that we tune into through our meditation practice. Our conscious meditation practice is just the beginning. Then as we begin to become truly awake and aware in this moment, we begin to actually feel the beauty, the vividness, the meaningfulness of this world as it arises now. And that's where Hua, Yin, and Lu actually live. Gods, men, and serpent deities. He says, when it's not a matter of paying lip service to these principles by just having an orderly household, you begin by appreciating your world, its sacredness, taking a fresh look at the universe. You feel the presence of Hua, Yin, and Lu in your body, your entire being, wakefulness and the vision of Hua, the solidity and gentleness of Yin, and the rich possibilities of treading the earth, Lu. Then from that discovery of basic decorum, that's a phrase, basic decorum, having Hua, Yin, and Lu in their places. You don't have your feet on the desk, that's putting Lu in the place of Yin. You don't wear your shoes on your head, that's putting Lu in the place of Hua. He says you begin to understand how to join Hua, Yin, and Lu principles together by giving yourself to others. This is what happens when we begin to live according to these principles. Egolessness develops. Ego dissolves. And there is nothing to do but live in being helpful to all the beings around us. He says Hua, Yin, and Lu is exemplified in the act of bowing, a symbol of surrendering to others, serving them. So we do this every day when we do when we dedicate the merit and we do the Shambhala one. By this merit, may all attain omniscience, may defeat the enemy wrongdoing, from the stormy waves of birth and death, from the stormy waves of, how does it go? Somebody, how does the Shambhala chant go?
From the stormy waves of birth, old age, sickness, and death, may I free all beings.
By the confidence of the golden sun of the great East, may the lotus garden of the Rigdon's wisdom bloom. This is the Shambhala part. May the dark ignorance of sentient beings be dispelled. May all beings enjoy profound, brilliant glory. And this is stepping into the world of Drala, of magic, where Hua, Yin, and Lu rule, order, society. So the bow is a representation of this, and we do the bow when we end that chant. And the way you do it is you put your hands on your hips with your elbows out like this, if you're seated in a chair or on a cushion, and you bow from the waist all the way down to horizontal with your hands on your hips, and then you come back up like this. And here's what he says about that. He says, first you begin by establishing your head and shoulders, uplifting your posture. You hold yourself erect. That's when you put your hands on your waist, your arm, elbows akimbo. This connects you with the realm of law and raising wind horse. Now, what raising wind horse is something we haven't gotten to yet. He mentions it here. This is the energy the spirit, the upliftedness that can course through your body. It's the prana, the winds that move through and that lift you up. Wind horse. It's called lungta in Tibetan. Lung means wind and ta means horse. And so it's really the energy of upliftedness, of coming into sacred world and observing these principles of Hlan, Yin, and Lu. So he says, first you begin by establishing your head and shoulders, uplifting your posture, holding yourself erect. This connects you with the realm of Hla and with raising wind horse. It is as if you were Mount Everest. Here it is up here, Mount Everest. Then from that glacial mountain realm of Hla, you begin to bend down by lowering your head and hunching slightly. You acknowledge the breadth and vastness of your shoulders. It says, then finally, you complete your bow, you submit to the realm of Lu, you completely surrender, and then you raise up again. Your entire three systems of Hlan, Yin, and Lu are offered as you bend down. Hla, Yin, and Lu. This is the warrior's bow. So we used to do it standing. Here it is. Hands on the hips, arms akimbo. The warrior's bow. An expression of Hlan, Yin, and Lu. And he says of this, it's a way of giving away basic goodness and wind horse to others. So in bowing, you are surrendering the potential power and magic, and you do that with real proper feeling. It is a threefold process: hold, give, feel, and give. First you hold. The magic power of the bow actually confirms both people, the person bowing and the person to whom he or she is bowing. You are sharing something together. The warrior never bows to Mickey Mouse or the setting sun, which would be to degrade him or herself. The bow is based on acknowledging the other person's worth, his or her Hlan, Yin, and Lu existing right in front of you, the person to whom you're bowing. You're acknowledging that. You're honoring that. And as a mark of respect, you do not rise from your bow until the other person rises. So the other person will bow, you bow, the other person bows, and then you wait for them to rise before you rise. So it's an example of how to join Hlan, Yin, and Lu together. And he says, basically, the point is to serve the world. Teachers are highly respected because they join Hlan, Yin, and Lu in the students. Ideally, politicians and public servants also have this role. Wow. Hard to find. The role of the warrior altogether is to join Hlan, Yin, and Lu in order to help his or her fellow human beings. Living in accordance with natural hierarchy, he says, is not an exercise in rigid, meaningless formality of lifeless commands or meaningless codes of conduct. The world has order and power and richness that can teach us how to conduct our lives artfully, with kindness to others and care for ourselves. And really, every time, the project is to come present, be here, to appreciate this beautiful world, and to order our world according to these principles of Hlan, Yin, and Lu. You can do it in your body, the way you dress. You can do it in your house, the way you present your house, with grace and simple beauty. You can do it in everything. The way you greet someone when you meet them on the street, with consciousness and grace and cheer and kindness. So he says, however, studying the principles of Hlan, Yin, and Lu is not enough. The discovery of natural hierarchy has to be a personal experience. Magic is something you must experience for yourself. Then you will never be tempted to put your hat on the floor or your shoes on your head. But more importantly, you will never be tempted to cheat your neighbors or your friends, which is a total violation of Huan Yin and Lu. You will be inspired to serve your world, to surrender yourself completely, as we do in the Tao. So that's all I have to say today. I think this is such profound stuff, things that we can begin to experience in our lives. Just observing Huan Yin and Lu in this beautiful, vivid world of the present. So we can have a discussion. Oh, I'm sorry.
It's me. I was just wondering. Yeah.
Is this Terrence?
Yeah.
Hi.
Hey, I was wondering. We took a left turn out of the Vajrayana into Shambhala for some reason. What was the reason for that? And yeah, and how different is it? Vajrayana?
They are very, very synchronous. And the reason we took this detail was that it is detour, you might say, if it really isn't a detour, is that the Vajrayana book started with Great Eastern Sun. In the very first chapter, we treated the first chapter, we studied it, and it started with Great Eastern Sun. And I thought, okay, we need to understand the principles of Great Eastern Sun and sacred world. You see, Vajrayana is all about this. It's about sacred world. That's what happens, what the Vajrayana is. It's a evocation. It's a drawing us in to sacred world. It's a symbolic representation, personification, if you will, of sacred world. And it's driven by principles of heaven, earth, and man. And it doesn't mention the Vajrayana teachings, Huan Yin and Lu, but they're totally synchronous with it. And in fact, I feel that studying this material, you are getting into the heart of the Vajrayana much faster than you would have if we'd gone straight into volume 3. The heart of the Vajrayana is really about appreciating the beauty and the meaningfulness of the sacredness of this world that we live in. We usually walk through it lost in samsaric, confused, unhappy daydreams of aggression, of sorrow, of poverty mentality, of wishing things were otherwise. And we fail to see what this world really is. And this is evoking a different way of being, these teachings. They're incredibly profound. And they are terrific preparation for moving into the Buddhist Vajrayana teachings.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you for that question, Terrence.
Sure.
John, Fred has his hand up.
Who?
Fred.
Fred. Okay. Hi, Fred.
Hi, John. Yeah, this is so powerful. This almost sounds like laws of how to govern. Like when you, especially in conjunction with what you're saying last week about the mandate of heaven. And I start to think about the problems of what we had, and George Bush in Iraq, there was a gesture where somebody took off both of his shoes and threw them right at his head. And that's the Lu to the La. I think that was a big deal, and we're still digging ourselves out of that or rebalancing it. So are these teachings like how to govern, almost like the divine right of kings in the West?
Definitely.
Mm.
Because the true governor, the true ruler, is representative of law, the high mountain peaks, the ordering of life according to valuing human beings, their worth, and their well-being, and organizing society along those principles, rather than through aggression and fear and defensiveness, but with care for people. Yeah. So definitely, this is a prescription for how to order society as well.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Vicky's raising her hand.
Okay, Vicky.
Yeah, I was trying to put this together with what we just learned about Drala, internal and external Drala, and I think there was secret Drala. Is Drala kind of those principles for the self and the self's environment? Well, self doesn't exist, but the personal arrangement of how you treat your body, and then the environment you're in, like your house and your clothes, is law and Lu. In other words, there's kind of a parallel. One's kind of at the individual level and one's more at the social level.
You see it everywhere, at all levels. Yeah, individual, social, business, political, so, in schools, everywhere. The principles of Hua, Yin, and Lu have to do with proper appreciation and understanding of the roles that we take in this world. And we can walk through our world and see this all the time when things are out of joint, when the proper roles are not being taken and appreciated. Definitely. And then things start to fall apart. But when they are taken and appreciated, the principles of Hua, Yin, and Lu, then there's tremendous appreciation for this world. And we begin to move into the magic, the beauty of life.
So there's no specific relationship of that with Drala?
Absolutely. Drala refers to the magic quality that we are move into this world of magic in which Drala, everything is lit. That's what Drala is about. And in that world, and what helps keep that world lit, you might say, with this beautiful magical quality, full of compassion and meaning, is when we begin to see and organize our lives according to the principles of Hua, Yin, and Lu. And
Okay.
it helps us have our houses be beautiful and express this appreciation. And it's not a matter of a status, like I'm going to have a beautiful house and then people will walk in and be, impressed. That's baloney. What it's a matter of is appreciation and the creation of art, beauty in the world.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. And we can move into this world and live it. And in doing it, we become this. What's necessary as well is giving up ego. And that doesn't mean that you punish yourself. What it means is that coming completely present into this space, the idea of I is irrelevant. There's just what needs to be done, what needs to be addressed, what calls for your response, your creativity, and your love in this space of nowness, this magical space. And really what we're being asked to do is to step into a different world. We have lived in the world of samsara, which is a mean and nasty world. It's a world of fear, hope and fear, and of sorrow. And we're being asked to step into the real world, the world of now, which is being described to us in terms of magic, drala, which is vividness, beauty, and in terms of Hlan, Yin, and Lu, natural order to things. Our leaders represent Hla when they're good leaders, and we are the Nyen. I'm not sure who the Lu would be in society. Maybe the animals that we take care of, all the species below us. I just spent the day with 4 dogs. I mean,
Right.
the last 3 days with 4 dogs. We had guests who brought their dogs.
Mark has his hand raised.
Oh, thanks, man. Mark.
Hi. Yeah, what I get out of this is like there's a primordial natural order that we don't know where it comes from. It's just there, and that our following it is well, it's magic, and essentially why isn't everything just haphazard and confusing, and why is there a natural order anything? And yet there it is, and it's that's it's helpful for us to progress along the path, to be part of this. And again, the magic is that I think it was there before we were. It's just like the cosmic mirror shows us a past that isn't part of us, but also isn't samsaric in nature, that this is helpful for us on the path. I don't know. Anyway.
Well said. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, well said. I mean, it's like we all have heads, shoulders, and feet. Hlan, Yin, and Lu. That's the way it works. We put our hats on our heads, our shirts on our shoulders, and our shoes on our feet. And if you violate that order, things are screwy. It's just the way of human society and of the world. And what it's saying is that when we begin to step into the real world, we want to order our lives according to these principles because they're celebratory, they are honorific, they are conscious, and they're non-ego. It's just what we were born into, what we happen to have. Maybe in an alternate universe, there are different kind of setup. Who knows? I kept this short, this reading. I'm going to do it next week too, because I feel like these chapters are so profound and so important. So I wanted to give us time to absorb it. Lodro.
Yeah, I'm trying to equate the 3 principles to art from the perspective of an artist. And I just wanted to know, would La be connected to the sense of the inspiration of the natural world, the phenomena, that sense of the natural beauty that we can draw from? I'm taking Yen as perhaps the interaction or the sense of meeting ground, us perceiving it, us tuning into that. And then I am taking Lu as the execution, finally just almost giving birth to the first 2 and then just presenting it outwards into the world. Would these be at all connected to this principle?
It sounds terrific to me. Yeah. And I'm sure there are other ways it could be implied too, work too, that, Hla might have to do with inspiration. Yen might have to do with actually execution, and Lu might have to do with the product. The execution being the act of creation, and Lu being the final rich product that is produced. So you have inspiration, execution, and fruition.
Correct.
Flowing in and
As an audience, the same could be said about La being that almost drawing or calling quality of a piece of art that immediately just draws our attention. Yen is meeting it, finally just taking the time to absorb it. And then Lu would be just the emotional response or just that effect, right? One of the reasons why I'm thinking about it in this perspective is because I see it very connected to the Chinese character that you presented about a sovereign ruler. And I was thinking about the three from this angle. The vertical line being our sense of presence or our sense of awareness is what just bridges the three together and just connects the entire process. Is there anywhere along those lines?
I haven't seen it, but it makes complete sense to me.
Okay.
Because, in the Chinese scheme, those three lines represent heaven, earth, and man, and they are connected by when they're unified by that line coming through, then you have order in the world. And that's what the ruler is meant to do. The ruler, above all, we're all meant to do it, but especially the ruler, the king, which is what that character means. It means Wang, means king. And that line through connects those three principles. So yeah, I agree with you completely. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. I think that what's so important is that we begin to have a real experience of this, that we can come present and appreciate the beauty of this world in the present moment. We step into a kind of a world of non-reference point, giving up I and other, giving up the constant attempt to solidify and secure me, and instead just being present and seeing this extraordinary vivid beauty that is presenting itself to us moment to moment. We step out of samsara, which is full of pain and suffering and is always about I, me, into this present moment in which I is really irrelevant. It just doesn't have a place because there's this constant, ever-changing display that we are a part of. And then we begin to notice how these principles work. You put your hat on your head, not on your feet. And those principles of Huan Yin and Lu are everywhere. In the way we organize our homes, our lives, our cars, everything. Fred?
I was going to save this for discussion, but why not now? Well, I'm gonna zoom that. With the Nagas and the fact that they're underwater spirits, I don't know if you're seeing, like, with all the craziness that's happening, there's some disclosure about there might be potential activity under the ocean of crafts we don't quite understand. So when you're talking about like bottom of the ocean Nagas, it's an interesting perspective.
Yeah. Yeah.
And just that's happening. It's like, this is happening like right now. That's magic. That's Drala. Because it's like beyond belief, but so possible.
Yeah.
Is that like underwater crafts you're talking about, or did I?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
There's some crafts that defy physics, and it's being publicly disclosed piece by piece. Like it was in the New York Times, and
They're
it's
the
going on.
UFOs of underwater. I just heard a Navy fighter pilot talking about the guy who's identified UFOs and came out, one of these captains, and now he's talking about the same thing has been identified by his seagoing friends in the military. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, friends, maybe we should end early unless there's somebody who has.
Deirdre has her hand up.
Oh, good. Yeah.
Hi, everybody. I just wanted to say that I started to really feel with this last chapter, I started to really feel changed by the last 4 chapters altogether. Started to come together and awaken me to the magic. And the thing I think I like the most that I read was about the monarch being brokenhearted because the world isn't all, I don't know how to say all the words yet, but it isn't in this order where it's healthy and working. And so at the same time that we can stand as that intermediary between heaven and the earth. And I think the trees do too. I just keep thinking of the trees having that position. They just do for me. We still witness what's going on right now. And it's heartbreaking. And I was kind of shocked when I saw this word, heartbreak, and I kind of fell into being able to be here with both at the simultaneously. If that makes sense. I didn't think about this ahead. I just had such a strong response to the very last chapter. And I really do think it is a gift, like you said last week. I get it now. Thank you.
Thank you, Deirdre. Well, let's end. I'll put the chants up. Meg, if you could lead us.
Yep, I'm here.
I'm going to mute all, so Meg, unmute yourself.
We'll close with a prayer for peace, and then we'll dedicate the merit earned by our practice for the benefit of all sentient beings. By the blessings of enlightened and compassionate ones, by the power of my positive actions of 3 times and my prayers of pure aspiration, may wars, conflicts, epidemics, and all other maladies dissolve in this world, and may the earth and all who live on this earth enjoy the abundance of well-being. May all learn to live lovingly with each other. By this merit, may all obtain omniscience. May it defeat the enemy, wrongdoing. From the stormy waves of birth, old age, sickness, and death, from the ocean of samsara, may I free all beings. By the confidence of the golden sun of the great east, may the lotus garden of the Rigdon's wisdom bloom. May the dark ignorance of sentient beings be dispelled. May all beings enjoy profound, brilliant glory.
Thank you, everyone.
I have a little announcement. It's a reminder, really. I just want to remind people that our Sangha has some expenses that we need to cover to be sustainable. So if you haven't made a donation to support lately and can afford it, there's a suggested donation of $10 a class, but any amount is appreciated. And if you just aren't in the position to make a financial donation, please know that your presence and your practice alone is a support to all of us. And thanks to everyone who has made a donation. And I'll put a link in chat. Thank you.
Thanks, Laura.
Thank you for that reminder.
Thank you, Laura. Thanks, John.
Thanks,
It's
everybody.
good governance.
Everybody.
Thanks,
care.
everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Everybody.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, John.
Good
Thanks.
night.
Well.
Thanks, everybody.